Sacred Lands is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and that means that we've been in existence for more than 3 years and that we've filled out the paperwork with the government to become an official nonprofit, and means that we can conduct events and activities that have to do with educational purposes and charitable purposes, and that we don't make a profit on these activities and events. Our mission is, we've got three major goals. One is the history of this land is very special to us, and we invite people onto the property to learn about the history of the Indians that lived here on the Indian Mound. It is a historical site and has a rich history going all the way back to the 1600s and even before that we know of, that we have information about. And in the 1800s, it was occupied by a very famous character here in Pinellas County as well, John Levesque, who John's Pass is named after, lived on this land in the 1800s. And it's a very interesting property that my in-laws bought back in the 1940s. And so we want people to learn about its history. We want to make sure that the land is preserved.
This is a North American native ceremonial area. Rocks are heated in the fire, brought inside the sweat lodge. The door is right here. You have to crawl to get in. You have to humble yourself. Hot rocks are put in there, and then water is poured over them by the person in charge. It is the same kind of experience you get with extended fasting, with vision quest, with deep meditation, on a regular basis. What you're doing is stepping away from the world that you live in. The magic of this ceremony is that it uses the 4 elements: water, air, fire, and earth. The rocks representing the earth. So you're using the 4 elements. You're crawling into the sweat lodge, humbling yourself as a 4-legged, and the words you say in Lakota Sioux are Omatakweyasi, which means I acknowledge that I'm related to everything around me. And now we know from scientific study, you ready, that all living things on Earth, from nematodes and worms and bugs to all the plants, share the same 4 amino acids we use to make our DNA and have DNA.
And also with me is Mac Perry, author of Black Conquistador. Yep. There it is.
Black Conquistador tells the story of the Narvaez landing in 1528, right here at Sacred Lands.
Now, wasn't this supposedly the first place the Spanish landed on the west coast of Florida, at least?
It was the first Europeans to explore America. Who was it? Ponce de Leon came here earlier, but all he did was come ashore and name the state Florida. He got shot in the leg by the Indians and went back to Cuba and died. Well, the survivor, Cabeza de Vaca, went back to Spain and published the account as a diary in 1542. And there have been 4 English translations of that, and I got a hold of all 4 of those. Most of them are kind of out of existence today, but I was able to get all 4 of those. And I researched probably 60 or 70 other books and put it all together. It's actually a novel. We call it a book of faction, which is fiction based upon fact. The site here, which is just south of Saffron's in St. Petersburg on Park Street, is where the landing was in 1528. 400 men landed here, and they started walking across the United States, and only 4 of them survived.
I'm not surprised. I mean, the undergrowth must have been impenetrable in those days.
Oh, yes, it was. And so were the Indians, chased them and beat them all. So they couldn't sleep. The Indians wouldn't let them sleep, and it really beat them down. But only 4 survived. Most of them died on the Texas coast around Galveston, and 4 survived all the way to the Pacific Ocean and went down into Mexico City, and finally came back to Spain and wrote the account in Spanish.
Did they buy for the Spain, o sea, for the Indio or for the mosquito bite?
Yeah.
Cantiga we met through our friend Mac Perry, who I mentioned helped us with our website. Mac is a well-known author, musician, artist, and he has his own business as well as doing those artistic things. And so he knows a lot of people, and through his music, he loves the Renaissance Festival. He's been going every year for more than 10 years, he and his wife. And they met Cantiga, and Mac believes that Cantiga is the quintessential Renaissance band. They encompass everything that you would want in a Renaissance band, with the instruments and the people that are part of the group. We also started our peace meditation circle just right after 9/11 as well. And that's been going on since then. Every other Wednesday for 4.5 years now, without fail, we meet with the Circle for Peace. And so that's probably our longest standing event that we've had that meets regularly.
What is the goal of that event?
Peace Circle is based on the principle that if people come together and envision something and put energy towards a goal, that vision can build momentum, and that it can be transmitted and communicated in a multiple variety of ways to the greater population. We have a passion about this land, and we want to invite everyone to come here and experience it for themselves, because we can tell you about it, but there's no way you can really know what it truly feels like and why we're so passionate about trying to preserve it unless you come and really experience it. So we really invite anyone that has interest in the land, preservation, the Native Americans, preserving Florida and old Florida, to come and visit and just let us take you around and show you what we're excited about, to get you to be part of it. We'd love to have people come and join and help us with events. We're always looking for volunteers and people to help us and to enjoy this as much as we do.
We are really strange. We have Peruvians and Ecuadorians and people that come here, and this is consecrated with the directions and the cornmeal and the tobacco, and a little different, but it's the same process as that's consecrated. This is just a different hemisphere. And their world, North America with Canada, is Turtle Island. This is Heart Island, South America. The sacred bird up there is the eagle. The sacred bird down here is the condor. Now you have to be 12 feet up, and you can't live underneath there. You can park cars and stuff underneath, but you can spot the new homes. Well, 800, 900 years ago, these guys knew that it would be smart to live 12 feet up. And we learned it 25, 30 years ago. That's arrogance. So they built these mounds, and then when they settled, landfills. And when they settled down, they put a little dirt on it and stuff. When it settled down, they moved on top of it. An example of something in St. Petersburg like that is Toy Town. Out 4th Street North, way out 4th Street North. When I was a kid here, that stunk. There was so much garbage there. It was a landfill. And you drove out that way to go to Gandy, so a lot of us were on that road, and you could smell it. Okay, and they kept putting dirt on it, and garbage, and dirt, and garbage, and now they have high-rises on it. You try to get an elk, a deer, a moose, a bear, a coyote, a wolf, who's going to pull the wagon?
They had to bring the horses in.
The Spanish brought the horses in. There were prehistoric horses here, about like this 30 million years ago. But when man was living here, there was no animal that has ever been domesticated to do work for man. So the Mexicans had a burro. The South Americans had the alpacas and the llamas. The Middle Eastern guys had the sheep and the goats and the cow-like animals, that they could domesticate. Nothing. So why would you have a wheel? What are you going to pull it, roll it? Mm-hmm. There's just no reason to. These people are as smart as we are. Their brains were not less able. They were exploiting their environment to meet their needs, just like we are. There just weren't so many levels of people in between them and the environment. So the Smithsonian came down and they spread out. There's 500 mounds in Pinellas County. So they spread out and started looking. One of the groups came over here and started digging. They immediately found out that the artifacts over in Wheaton Island had been planted there. They were smart enough to recognize that. But they dug a little farther and they found the Weeden Island period, the best pottery that we have in Florida. So they stopped digging everywhere else and went over there. After they finished the dig, there was an X and Y coordinate, and then they dug in levels. And there were 10 centimeter levels, which is about 4 inches. So everything that came out of this hole is coordinated with everything else in the hole by three-dimensional numbers. So that's what archaeology is about. If you were going to live according to my master teacher from Ecuador, why don't you express gratitude, think it in your head every time you put a morsel of food in your mouth? I am grateful. Why don't you have that thought in your head every time you take a sip of any liquid? Why don't you have that thought in your head when you take a shower? Why not when you look at the sea, a lake, a river? Because you've got to be gratitude, because you won't be alive without it. How about every time you take a breath, there's a thought in your head, thank you, because this is what's making it possible. Think how far away we've got from that, and think how impossible that would be. But think about doing it occasionally,